So, with the Vancouver Canucks touching down in Anaheim, California, just a short drive away from Disneyland itself, we have ourselves some extra news and notes with the Canucks that I wanted to dive into in this video. We have some practice updates, we have some player updates, we have health updates, and we also have some talk about Elias Pettersson too, that was tossed out there by different members of the more general hockey media. Not Canucks media, but just kind of general hockey media. So, starting out with the biggest news, I would say. It comes to us via Rick Dhaliwal going out there and talking about Thatcher Demko. There's good progress with the guy. He is in the last stage of hurdles that need to be cleared before he can return to practice. There's still no timetable, but there is very good progress being made. And I think with this, it kind of goes to show that the timeline that we were told at the beginning of the season was sort of accurate. I mean, what did they say? 4 weeks, something like that? Beginning in November? It was not even just Thatcher Demko, it was also Dakota Joshua, but we'll get to him in a little bit as well. Let's also go over on an article on CanucksArmy.com published by Tyson Cole. Canucks hope Demko can return to full practice this week. The reason we are talking about this is because it features an update from Darren Dreger on the Sekeres and Price show. And what I like about the article is that it transcribes a lot of what Dregs ends up saying. Let's read this here. It's going to be linked in the description, by the way. Thatcher Demko has been going through his goalie workouts and he has been skating and he has been taking shots, but he hasn't returned to practice with the full group, Dreger explained. The hope is that Thatcher will return to the full team practice this week, and then after that, you start looking at a countdown. Now, are we talking several days? Are we still talking in the week-to-week category? One thing we know here is that it's been pretty evident that the Vancouver Canucks are not going to push Thatcher Demko. They don't really feel like they need to. He's been working his you-know-what off in the background to make sure that the problem he has isn't going to develop into a bigger problem down the road. Because of the patience the club has shown and the fact they haven't had to force him back into the mix, he's taking advantage of his time away. I would say for Thatcher Demko, in terms of game action, it's inside 3 weeks, but that timeline is probably going to be either shortened, I don't think it will be lengthened, depending on how he feels after a couple of practices. As Dreger mentioned, the Vancouver Canucks earned themselves some valuable time with their recent signing of Kevin Lankinen, who has held them in multiple games this season. He's a 5-0-2 record and a 2.25 goals against plus a .919 save percentage, and once Demko returns, the duo will form a competitive 1-2 punch in the Canucks crease for the remainder of the season. Sorry, Artur Shilovs, it's just not your time right now. As unfortunate as it is for him, I'd say for the Vancouver Canucks, having a tandem of Demko and Lankinen will be stellar. Assuming, of course, Demko is as good as we expect him to be. I'm going to be honest, for me personally, it's tough to really say, oh yeah, Demko's going to come back, and then he's going to put up another Vezina caliber year. He's going to be a finalist for the trophy again, like he was last season. Like, it's very difficult to project that kind of thing to begin with, I'd say. And especially for a guy who's coming off of an injury that literally no other player has had before, it gets even more challenging to try to project how good he's going to be. So for Thatcher Demko, I'm still keeping my expectations fairly grounded. Obviously, we know that he can be the best goalie in the league. It's just a question as to whether or not we're really going to see that right away. He has it in him, but is it willing to come out? So we'll keep our eyes out, keep our ears peeled and our eyes opened. I don't know if that's how it goes. I don't know. But you get what I mean. We'll pay attention to Demko and his recovery. We also have to pay attention to the other guy that we had spoken about, Dakota Joshua, because if we take a look at Harmondale and the recent Canucks practice lines from this morning, we have ourselves these guys getting played. Jake DeBrusk, Miller Besser, Suter, Pettersson Garland, Heinen, Bluger Sherwood, Hoglander, Bains, and Sprong. So there you go, Arshdeep Bains is finally in the bottom of the lineup. P.S. Suter, who is a very good facilitator for play with Miller and Besser last year, is now with Pettersson and Garland this year. Dakota Joshua is rotating in as the extra player, Dale writes. Add on the defenseman Hughes, Hronik, Susie Myers, Bronstrom, Desharnais, Forbort, and Juleson, and you have a pretty standard Vancouver Canucks lineup for this year. Dakota Joshua, though, rotating in and around the lineup is a good thing. He is practicing, he is skating, and while there aren't any promises, things are looking pretty good for Dakota Joshua. Nils Åman was already sent down. He cleared waivers, so he is now in the AHL's Abbotsford Canucks, which opens up that roster spot for Dakota Joshua to enter and potentially make his season debut. Does he do that tomorrow? Who really knows? We'll see. I did pick him up in my fantasy league. He's been on my IR the entire year, so we'll see whether or not that was a good decision. Anyways, let's go over to some of the other things about this practice here. Tocchet said he'll be talking to Alvin shortly, and a call-up is possible to fill the fourth-line center spot. Tocchet also named Aatu as an option. So, it's interesting to see that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily speak to Arshdeep Bains being a fourth-line center. I'd say that maybe with his overall forechecking ability and his puck retrieval, they might have actually wanted to prioritize him in a more scoring-oriented role, not necessarily in the fourth line, although you could say with Höglander and Sprong, that fourth line definitely does have the capacity to score goals and make offense happen. It's just, if they wanted to try Aatu, kind of rotate some other guys around there, Arshdeep Bains is not like a guaranteed 82-game NHL player right now. He's definitely not. So having other guys rotating around in that spot for a tryout kinda doesn't seem like the most inappropriate thing in the world to me. But for Dakota Joshua, because he does have experience playing center in his past, I also do wonder if there is a possibility that they just try him out. Like, if they decide, okay, let's not do Garland and Joshua as wingers for a Pettersson line or whatever, let's just have Joshua as a center. Maybe that's an idea that's worth thinking about, who really knows? But if the Canucks feel like they're not ready to explore it yet, then they could maybe make another call-up for a more natural center, like an Aatu, for example, who's been kind of tearing it up in the Abbotsford Canucks lately. Pretty good for him, too. There also was an interesting update from practice earlier today. Derek Forbort got shaken up during a drill, and he left practice early, favoring his left leg. Not necessarily the best news you want to hear. I will say that with Susie and with Derek Forbort, a lot of these guys haven't necessarily been as good as we wanted them to be. The Canucks are definitely lacking in their defensive depth and talent since the departures of Ian Cole and Nikita Zadorov. Say what you want about Cole and his sleeper agent status for the Oilers in that playoff series, but yeah, he's doing really well with Utah. And at some point, I started to think, hey, the Canucks really could have used a guy like this. Kind of crazy how that works, but no more Cole, no more Zadorov. Instead, we are seeing Derek Forbort getting shaken up. Hopefully he doesn't miss any significant time. He already did miss some games due to the passing of his father, which was very unfortunate. But to end off this video, I wanted to go over some discourse shared by general hockey media about Vancouver Canucks superstar Elias Pettersson. I'll leave a link in the description to 2 Canucks Daily articles. First one, it's going to be talking about Paul Bissonnette and his comments surrounding Petey. And then the second one, we're going to be talking about what is it, Doug MacLean? Yeah, Doug MacLean went out there and said about Elias Pettersson too, saying that it's scary to watch. Let's go out there and read the Paul Bissonnette comments about Petey from the latest Spit and Chicklets podcast. You gotta get to a point where something snaps. Something switches, Biz said. And if that switch goes off, Pettersson will be a beast because he can skate like the wind. He's got an incredible shot. Skills are out the yin-yang. What I think is missing in him is that dog. And when you pay a guy $11.5 million, he better have that somewhere inside of him. It might take a few more years to untap the true potential, but it better be in there. So I look forward to seeing those, Bissonnette said. It's kind of funny because the caption of the Spit and Chicklets video says Elias Pettersson's got that cat in him instead of that dog. So kind of an interesting sort of discussion point to throw out there. I don't want to necessarily say it's wrong. Maybe the language isn't really as useful in comparison to what some other people have talked about, but then again, you know, it's Spit and Chicklets, you expect this kind of a discourse, so Biz is just expressing his affinity towards Pettersson in the way Biz can, which is awesome, I'd say. Then we go over onto Doug MacLean and read what he said on the recent Real Kipper and Bourne show last week. I don't know what's going wrong with this Elias Pettersson kid. We can talk his confidence, we can talk these things, the contract, I mean, what is he, $11.3 million? And right now, that's going to hurt his team to try and build a team with that kind of dollars tied up in that kind of production. It's scary right now to watch how he's playing, MacLean said. I can't believe Pettersson wouldn't take a look at Hughes, how he plays the game, and how he competes, and how he wants to get better, and how he wants to win. And you play lackluster the way Pettersson is right now. It's shocking to me. It really is. And that's an assessment that I can also agree with too. Hughes is a dog. He's got that game in him, and he's got that ever-long desire to improve. Not that Pettersson doesn't want to improve, it's just, it's weird to take a look at one superstar in the team and note how he's getting better, and take a look at the other and how he's gotten worse. So we'll leave the video off with those two thoughts, Biz and McLean's ideas on Elias Pettersson, but I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Demko, Dakota Joshua, Derek Forbort, Arshdeep Bains, Aatu, Raty, EP40. There's a lot to talk about in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.